have good English skills and they are able to communicate in English, they don't understand how English is used in a global context, and therefore they hesitate and sit back. And what happens is that they are perceived as being disengaged, not understanding, and failing to participate in that meeting from a Western perspective.
Yes.
And the challenge here is that.
Jeff, great to finally meet you. Been a big fan of what you post on LinkedIn. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Grant. Great to chat with you finally too.
Great, great. So for those who don't know you, can you introduce yourself and share a little bit of your background?
Sure. So I currently live and work in Japan. I work with a lot of global companies in Japan where the Japanese staff have to communicate with their global colleagues, their colleagues in the US, Australia, UK, Europe. And while a lot of Japanese have good English skills and they are able to communicate in English, they don't understand how English is used in a global context. And they find when they join meetings, they find the English meetings to be way too chaotic for them and find it very difficult to jump in, to share their point, to ask a question. And therefore they hesitate and sit back. And what happens is that they are perceived as being disengaged, not understanding, and failing to participate in that meeting from a Western perspective.
Yes.
And the challenge here is that they need better skills and greater confidence to participate in those English meetings. But the global colleagues also need to play their part in taking actions that can better support their Japanese colleagues. And I imagine it's the same in Korea and China from your experience.
Very true. Yeah. The more people I work with, the more that I feel a lot of the challenges our clients face, it's not because of the technical aspects of English. A lot of it's just cultural differences.
Yeah. And Japan being a high context communication culture where they listen, they wait patiently, they don't interrupt. And English being a very low context culture where we interrupt, seek clarification, paraphrase, ask questions in the middle of somebody's, while somebody's trying to explain something. It's just chaotic to them. And they've got to learn to deal with that chaos. But we, native English speakers, have to learn to try and reduce or do what we can to reduce that chaos for them when you're working in cross-cultural teams.
That's a great point. Yeah. When I first started my job in Korea working at a business English academy, a lot of the staff, they were Koreans who, they might not be fully fluent in English. And something that the head teacher told me, which I try to keep in mind, is as foreigners, it's our job to be understandable. It's not their job to understand.
Yeah. There is a great phrase, Grant, by Brene Brown, and she says, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And that sums it up, really. We have a responsibility. It's our language. It's easy for us to slow down, to use shorter sentences, simpler words, longer pauses, to recap, paraphrase. We can do all those things, but we just often don't as English speakers because we are unaware, or many English speakers who haven't worked in Asia are unaware of what they can do. So clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And that's what I try to push on the global colleagues.
That's fantastic.
To get them to do their
I really
part.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like you said, a lot of Westerners, we're just unaware of this, especially if it's our first time working in a global context. So in addition to the chaos, what seems very unstructured, what are some of the other challenges or worries that the Japanese professionals you work with share when talking about global meetings and presentations?
So if we focus on presentations, and I think that's where you want to focus today, they're scared of leaving out something important. So therefore, they cram everything in to their presentation, as much information, data, charts as they can, so nothing is left out. And there's a second reason they do this, and that's because they want to avoid questions at the end.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Most Japanese business professionals will do anything to avoid the questions. They just don't want to have to do that because they have to respond spontaneously.
It's in the moment.
Doing that in another language with somebody, listening to somebody who has an unusual accent, it's embarrassing, and they want to avoid that spotlight. So, overfilling their presentations with data, for various reasons, including avoiding questions, is one of the biggest challenges for them. So also, they think that data trumps the message. And I have to tell them that your presentation has to begin and end with a message. And any data you present has to support that message. But you can also move data to a backup slide. You don't have to put everything in there. You might think, well, this is important, and this is important, and this is important. Pick the most important. Move some of the other stuff to your backup slides. And if you do need them, you can access them during your presentation. But again, keep it simple. So another thing, they worry about their English. But again, as we talked earlier, most of the English issues are not related to the grammar and the structure and those things. It's related to confidence. They get a lot of stage fright because, they don't get up and speak in English in presentations a lot. So that's natural. So my advice is to make sure their presentation is relevant to the audience. So it's got to match that audience. Then it's got to be clear, and it's got to focus on the main things, and then it's got to be simple, meaning not overloaded with too much data. And if we start with relevance, clarity, and simplicity, then that's a good place to start. To give you an example, often, they'll have a visiting global colleague coming to Japan. And I remember doing this when I was working in Pfizer, and a woman came to me and showed me her presentation to her global boss coming to Japan. And it had something like 9 different topics in there that she was presenting. And I said, which of these topics is Tom, your global boss, interested in? She said, I don't know. She said, I'm just telling him what I'm interested in. So in that session, we drafted an email to her boss, Tom, asking him, hey, these are the topics we're planning to talk about.
Awesome.
Which ones are you interested in? And he responded within a few minutes, thank you very much. I'm really interested in topic 1, topic 4, and topic 6. So she was able to remove a lot of the other crap, if you like, and make sure that she focused on what was relevant. Then she could make it really clear, and then she could simplify it so she was able to present it more easily. Yeah, it's really simple. The solution to find out what's relevant is often just to ask
them.
The intended audience. This is what I'm planning to talk about. What is it that you're most interested in? And I think Japanese, being very shy, and they believe they should know that information. But as a non-Japanese person, if I'm presenting to somebody, I want to focus in on what it is they're concerned with, and then I can build from there.
Absolutely, yeah. Kind of the 3 big questions that I emphasize whenever we begin presentation prep with my clients. What does your audience already know?
Yeah.
What do they not already know? Because you can occasionally get the opposite, where instead of overloading them with data, they don't give enough background and they just jump right into a specific point that the visiting manager who has no context doesn't understand at all. And then what do they want? Like you said. So if you just keep those 3 things in mind as you're preparing, whether it's your slides, your outline, your script, it's probably going to lead to a much more effective presentation than if you're just writing it from your own perspective.
I have a process called Smart Slides, which are 7 steps. It sounds a bit long, but it's not really. And the first step is to create, if you need background, create a bit of background, and then have a purpose slide. So the purpose slide tells what you are planning to talk about and why it is of interest or of value
Mm-hmm.
to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
making it matter, making the
Mm-hmm.
audience
Mm-hmm.
clearly understand that this information is going to help our partnership. This information is going to help us sell more products. This presentation today is going to allow us to understand one another, to enable us to collaborate better. This presentation is going to help you see our perspective so you can make a decision. Not just what you're talking about, but why it matters to the
Mm-hmm.
audience.
Mm-hmm.
And then they need to recycle that purpose slide into their summary slide. So at the end of the
Ooh, yeah,
presentation,
yeah.
they're saying, today I talked about XXX, and the reason I spoke to you about this again is because of this, and reinforce that message again at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the kind of bookends for the
Mm-hmm.
presentation, I feel,
Mm-hmm.
Grant, and it
Mm-hmm.
allows people to get that message at the beginning, see the information, but hear
Fantastic.
again the message at the end so they leave with that message in their ear.
I love that tip. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's something that I experience sometimes with my clients as well. It's not just sharing the information. Share information, but explain why it happened and why it's
yeah,
important. Like if there's a bar graph of revenue data, don't just say, as you can see, profits went up 14% year over year. Like we can look at the screen and see that, include that, but say the profit went up 14% and it's mainly because we did these three specific things. So moving forward, here's how we're going to change the strategy for next
yeah.
year.
So I think it was interesting because you asked me about one of my posts,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and in that I said, and I'll read it, I said, if you want us to act on your presentation,
mm-hmm.
don't just show us what you know, tell us what it means, tell
Yeah.
us why it matters,
Mm-hmm,
and tell
mm-hmm.
us what you need from us if there's something you
True.
need.
What actions need to happen? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what support you need, because do
Mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm,
need more budget from the global colleagues or whoever you're presenting to? Do you
mm-hmm,
need more support? Do you need more human resources? Do you need more time? What is it you
mm-hmm.
need that is going to make this successful? Because the person who's presenting is the expert. So the audience is relying on that person to
Mm-hmm.
actually not just present the data, but present a clear message, interpret the data, and then give their analysis. And the audience may agree or disagree with that analysis,
Sure.
but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That decision can be made later. But we are paying you for your work, for your expertise, sorry, and your ability to share that and communicate that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I especially love that tip about avoiding unnecessary complexity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the challenge because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people think complexity equals professionalism.
Shows how advanced your communication skills
Yeah,
are. Yeah.
yeah, and how great of a worker I
I
am.
look at everything I know. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
To your point about English, also, I
Mm-hmm.
think you know it's okay to make errors in an
Sure.
English
Sure.
presentation. As a native speaker, I'll often mess something up or say something wrong
Of course. Yeah.
or misunderstand my own slides sometimes. But, I think the problem is Japanese take it too personally. So if you make an error and the audience may question or challenge you, I think sometimes many Japanese, again, trying to avoid those questions, they feel it's a personal attack. So
Mm-hmm.
they want to
Mm-hmm.
avoid all of that. And when somebody does ask a question, oh, is that information correct? Or could you tell me that again? They feel under attack, and then it throws them off balance a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
If your grammar sucks, it doesn't mean you suck. Okay? You can still be
True.
the expert. You can still, get your message through. Most
Mm-hmm.
of the time, your global colleagues will understand that you are not a native English speaker and you are
Mm-hmm.
doing your best, as
Mm-hmm.
long as you are trying to get that message across. So,
Mm-hmm.
also today, with the advent of AI, I mean, it's pretty easy to check a script or check your slides in that way.
Yeah.
But also, I used to simply just say, find a good English speaker in your company. It doesn't have to be a native, and ask them to go through the slides. That's just one small thing you can do. And it gets a little bit of feedback happening between you and that person too. So it might be another Japanese person in Japan or another Korean person in Korea, but somebody who you trust, who you feel has some good English skills and may be able to give you some tips.
And just that concept of getting an informed second opinion
Yeah,
to look at any important presentation before it happens, that is very essential to
yeah,
preparation. Like
absolutely.
I think role playing it is the very best, but at the very least, if you can have someone walk through it with you and give you some feedback, that's probably going to be a lot better than just sitting by yourself reading it again and again.
Yeah. And the role playing, you cannot underestimate the value of practicing that presentation in advance, especially
Hmm.
if it's not online, if it's face to face.
Yes.
I often tell people, Japanese professionals, that if you've got a presentation at 11 o'clock with a global visitor, book the same room on the day. If you have to get in there at 8 a.m., book it for an hour. Go through your presentation 4 or 5 times if it's really important
Sure,
until
sure.
you feel comfortable with it so that when you walk in there at 11 a.m., you've already done it
It's not
six
the first
times.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've exactly,
You know where to
exactly.
walk, you know how to move, you know
Hmm.
where the layout, and you just feel
Hmm.
comfortable, and that relieves the stress.
100%.
And if you
Yeah.
can't do that in the room, then find a small space somewhere, whether it's even at home, and run through it. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
it just gives you that confidence, Grant, as you would well be aware.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And if you know there's going to be a Q&A, if you have someone there who can ask you questions throughout, that's even better.
Another big challenge for Japanese, I think, when a meeting is in a room, a physical presentation, is the delivery. They tend to stand and look at the screen and avoid the audience. So
Mm.
getting them to understand their body within that space, I think, is really important. Getting them to practice movement. We just do a lot of movement, walking within a room,
Hmm. Hmm.
gestures within a room, learning because Japanese don't use a lot of gestures, and that's
Hmm.
okay. But
Hmm.
to add spice to a presentation, we need some gestures.
Hmm.
We need a
Hmm.
little bit of movement, and we definitely need eye contact.
Eye
And
contact at least
that's,
once with everyone in the audience at some
yeah,
point, assuming it's not
yeah,
like 500 people. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, Jeff, where can people follow you, learn more from you?
So most of this stuff goes on LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, all of it goes on LinkedIn, I should say, Grant. Sorry.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's probably the best place to find me
Perfect.
is on LinkedIn, Jeff O'Day. O apostrophe DEA and JEFF, Jeff O'Day. I do have a website, but most of my all of the stuff that I really care about happens on LinkedIn, and that's where engagement happens, which I have a lot of fun with. And over the years, I've engaged with you through LinkedIn and commented on a few of your posts and vice versa. And I think that's
Mm.
part of what I love about LinkedIn is that engagement with other people
Agreed.
who care about this stuff.
I'll plug you at the bottom of the video. So, guys, go follow Jeff. I'll put his links below. And, Jeff, thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it.
Again, you're most welcome, Grant. Thanks for the interest. Appreciate it. And good luck with what you're doing too, because you're creating a lot of clarity and support around the Korean business professionals that you work with and beyond, no doubt. So
Thank
well
you so
done.
much.
Cheers, mate.